For this video, we will focus on just the GoldPesa mines, and then in a second video, part 2 of this, we will discuss what happens in the pawn smart contract and how GPO and the pawn play a role in this entire ecosystem. So let's go one step further and we will talk about the GoldPesa mines. So now what we'll do is the one thing that is about the GoldPesa mine, which some of you have seen before. We created a version 1 of the GoldPesa mine at GP Mines. The new version is a little bit different in the sense that it's a gamified staking, where anybody comes into the mine and they buy a GoldPesa miner for $10. And what happens when they buy a GoldPesa miner for $10 is as follows. So when somebody in the mine, let's say we call it a user. So let's say this is a user, and the user comes and they buy a GoldPesa miner. Okay. Buy. When they do that, they are going to buy with 10 USDC plus $1 as a fee. And the reason that we have implemented the fee is because we wanted to make sure the GoldPesa mine can last for hundreds of years without anyone from the GoldPesa team. And the 1% fee is used to swap into Chainlink in order to provide something very important, which is a random number on the blockchain in order for GoldPesa mines to truly be a fair game. And this is an automated process that Chainlink uses to determine a random number. And the random number is used to determine who goes deeper and deeper into the mine. And the deeper you go into the GoldPesa mine, the more money you make. And it's basically as simple as that. So we will definitely have another video on how GoldPesa mines work, but for now, I think that's enough to understand. So when this $10 goes into the GoldPesa mine takes the $10 and buys 10 USDC of GPX. And when it buys $10 worth of GPX, the GoldPesa, the Uniswap liquidity pool, then comes back and it delivers GPX. Let's say if GPX is trading at $1, then 10 GPX would be swapped and enters the mine. And this 10 GPX is then locked inside of the mine. And so what's happening is that every time one user enters, $10 goes into the mine, goes into Uniswap, and 10 GPX comes out at the current price. Now this miner, this user now has 10 GPX assigned to it forever. So no matter what happens, that user can leave the mine at any time with their 10 GPX, no matter if there's any earnings or not. And they can be on their way. And because it's a fair launch, the user can take their 10 GPX, go to the market, sell it, and get the USDC minus 1% each way without any issues, because it's a fair launch and all the dollars stay locked inside of Uniswap forever. It is never ever can be removed by us, by GoldPesa, not for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Many tokens have that. This is forever. And that means there's 100% liquidity inside of Uniswap. Everything inside the GoldPesa ecosystem is 100% immutable, ownerless, trustless, unupgradable, can never be changed, can never print more tokens, are fully robot controlled, no team tokens, no freebies, no commissions, no referrals. We are the Louis Vuitton of crypto. We are the creme de la creme of crypto. Everything is locked forever and fully robot controlled, and every item you see in this diagram and everything else we'll explain all have the same characteristics that can never ever be changed. Therefore, GoldPesa is fully robot controlled, smart contract controlled forever. And this is one of the major values of GoldPesa, and everything we build has the same values in our code. And of course, we will have another video which explains how you can verify that as a user by going and checking the code and asking ChatGPT whether this code can actually be hacked, not hacked, and everything we say is true or not true, even if you don't know how to code. So for now, we'll get back to the GoldPesa mines. So when you enter the GoldPesa mine, what you're actually doing is you're saying, I'm going to stake my $10 worth of USDC into the GoldPesa mine, and I will earn 0.25% of GoldPesa's volume for life. And the deeper you are into the mine, the more proportion of this 0.25 you get to earn. Yet your money and your stake stays your stake forever. So at any time in a year, in a day, in a month, in 10 years, you can leave with your 10 GPX, and the value of GPX could be whatever we simulated before, $80, $100, $250, and you can leave and sell it at that price quite comfortably, knowing that the liquidity is always inside of here. And liquidity means dollars, or USDC is inside of Uniswap, so you feel comfortable that you can buy and sell easily. So with such a good product, we at GoldPesa believe that you will naturally want to tell your friends about the GoldPesa mine. It's $10 and you get a piece of GoldPesa forever. So it's a really, really good value proposition. And it was our way of making it fun to go into something as cool as the GoldPesa mine, stake your money $10, and maybe one day make a lot of money. And even if you wanted to sell your miner, you can imagine you could sell your miner on something kind of like OpenSeas, which you'll see there's a NFT marketplace. And in this kind of marketplace, you can come and sell your miner. You'll see a miner here. And the price of the miner will be higher and higher as time goes, because it's an income generating asset. It is earning a portion of the volume of GoldPesa for life. So the deeper you're into the GoldPesa mine, if you're down here somewhere, you will have a more valuable miner, and it could sell for $100,000, $1 million, $10 million. It just depends on how much mass adoption GoldPesa has and how much fees are being generated. And so this is a very, very good value proposition. So what are you going to do? You're going to go and tell your friends about it. You're not going to earn a referral commission. You're not going to tell them because you're getting some kind of benefit. You're going to tell them because it's just that good, right? And you want to tell them because you want to help out your friends and you don't want to be selfish, right? So that's the way we see this market. So now what does that mean for GoldPesa? So we come back to our simulation. And let's go back to 50% people buy, 50% sell, because that's a good assumption, considering that we don't know, right, how many people are going to buy and sell. So let's go back to 50% in that case. And then we look at, let's just say we look at, okay, let's just look par for 10 years, right? Now we are going to uncomment the assumption. And if we go to the mine, we can see that in the mine, we simply have a buy miner function, which says that the total cost of a miner is $10. And just for simulation purposes, we left the 10% fee out because that doesn't go into our ecosystem. That goes directly to Chainlink to pay for the gas costs so that we never run out of gas, even if the GoldPesa team is not around tomorrow. And what it does is it swaps from the mine into the GoldPesa Uniswap liquidity pool the total amount of miners that are bought at any given time, and then it increases the total miners so we can get a good idea of how many miners are entering the ecosystem through the simulation. So in the beginning, like if we really assume what happens, like let's say that we have 10 miners on day one that enter when we first launch, and let's say even 10% of those, so 9 of them forget about it and they never tell any of their friends and they think, okay, I bought my $10, I don't care, right? But let's just say even 10%, one person of those 10 go and tell somebody else about the GoldPesa mine. So even just 10%. So if we look at 10%, then we can come here and say, okay, let's take the total number of miners, divide it by 10%, and that is how many miners are going to enter every month. So we're looking at the total number of hours, and what this basically means is every month we're assuming that of the 10 original people, only one person tells a friend. So in the next month, one person will buy, right? So now in this case, we have one miner that's adding in the second month and 10%, so on and so forth. So if we just simulate this and we run this, okay, so you can imagine just by adding 10% of the total number of miners that go and refer one person. So again, 10 people entered the mine at the end of the month, only one person told their friend, like I told Hero, please go and enter this mine, it's so good. Just by doing that with the exact simulation, in 10 years, our market cap is $2 billion. $2 billion. We were talking about 35 million and 12 million. That is what the power of compounding does when you have a community that shares the product and the project with everybody else.
That's crazy.
Just that, right? So people ask why we created the GoldPesa Mines. This is why, right? And this happens because ultimately when you enter the mine, you will never want to leave the mine because you own a piece of GoldPesa. We are enriching our community with a share of our business in order to spread the name and the word of mouth, because truly a good product does not need any marketing. And this is the power. And naturally, when you enter the market and you don't want to exit that market, that compounding effect is tremendous. We saw what happens when 50% of the time people want to buy and 50% of people want to sell. In this case, we're assuming that everybody who enters the mine doesn't want to leave the mine. So of course, that's not an exact assumption we can make, because I'm sure a few percentage of the people will leave the mine. But at least if 10% net enter the mine, minus the people leaving, we can assume that this is a very reasonable assumption that in 10 years, you're going to have a $2 billion market cap. Now,
let's see the price.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Let's see the price. So now if we take this and we're going to have the same thing, GPX, so on and so forth. Let's go over here. Let's do there. Nobody cares about that. Sorry, 1 second. Close that. The pawn, the mines, the fund wallet, of course, gets more money. And we look at the price. And now the price of just that for GoldPesa, let's just close this. Oh. The price now of GoldPesa is now $1,200 per token, which we started at $1, just by 10% of the people that are sharing the GoldPesa mines with their friends. One person. Here's a slow clap. A slow clap is the best. So people wonder why we, do this and
work so hard every single day.
And, it's not just about launching a token. It's about the understanding the psychology and building the right technology to reach mass adoption and ultimately give our market something so cool that you just want to tell one person to enter. And this is what creates just a massive, massive effect. Okay. So we think, okay, 10 years is a long ways away. Let's just see what happens with the same assumptions, but just based on 1 year, so that we can see where we are a year from today. Still only 50%. Let's leave this at 50% because it's already too crazy. So we'll assume 50% of the people in the market are buying and selling. So again, we come back here. And what we're saying is that this is the market. 50% is buying and 50% is selling. And we're making the assumption that they are buying and selling at most, as you saw, 1% of the total amount of GPX inside of the pool. And we're selling and buying 1% of the total amount of market cap or tokens that are out there in the world. So that's on that assumption. Now, if we look at 1 year of this and we run that simulation again, we're going to just save that. Run this code. Okay. So now in 1 year, we see a $600,000 market cap. So we see about a $5 to $6 price given this method. Remember before, when we're reaching $80, $90, we were talking about 10 years. So now we're only going down to 1 year so that we can get a good idea in 1 year based on these assumptions. It's great 10 years later to have an $80 price, but we want to see what's going to happen in a year. So based on this model, we've got about a $5 or $6 price in the next 1 year, and we're starting at $1, right, with these assumptions.
6x a year.
Right, so 5-6x. And the good thing is the way we've done it, you'll be able to sell comfortably, and that's the main thing. It's not a facade, it's a solid price because of the way we've designed it. So now, we look at this and think, okay, when I looked at a video the other day and it was showing, let's just watch it here.
Can ants outsmart humans in a maze? Scientists tested teamwork by challenging humans and ants to move a large T-shaped object through a maze. Humans had to work together under strict rules. No talking and no gestures to keep things fair. Meanwhile, the ants faced their maze relying purely on instinct and cooperation. Surprisingly, the ants actually performed better in the group challenge, moving efficiently and working as one unit. In contrast, humans struggled in larger groups where each human wanted to move the object in their own way, resulting in selfish decisions that slowed them down and cost them the advantage. Can ants outsmart
Now,
humans?
I saw this video.
Scientists tested teamwork by
So random. Not to say we're all ants, right? But ultimately, when I saw this video, and the main takeaway is exactly that: is that humans generally, if you could create a collective community, we saw that happen in GameStop. We see it happen all the time with various tokens. When the community is strong and they believe in what we're doing, and remember, there's real dollars coming into the ecosystem of GoldPesa. It's not that just the community is there pumping something because they all love it, right? Or because supply is limited and demand's high. It's because there's actual real earnings coming from the pond, which we'll get into in part 2 of this video. And we'll explain how this also now adds on top of the simulations we just did in part 2, and why the ecosystem is getting richer. You know, no matter what, if there's no money coming in from this pawn smart contract, then we are just creating a mathematical game of siphoning fees and giving everyone the illusion of gain when there's really no dollars entering this ecosystem other than paying Peter with Paul and so on and so forth. So of course, we have to design the right mechanics so that everything is sound in every way, in terms of liquidity, in terms of psychology, in terms of rewards, in terms of engagement, in terms of creating a good product that everybody wants to share with their friends. So word of mouth, ultimately with zero marketing budget, should get us there. But now let's just look at just a little bit more at this. If we had more cooperation as a team and we all help grow the GoldPesa ecosystem, assuming that 10% of the first 10 people share and that continues every month, let's just assume that even 50% of the people, right? So you first have 10 people that enter the mine, and of every month after that, 50% of those people have gone and brought just one person into the GoldPesa mine. And when you bring that person into the mine, they are not spending their money. They are staking $10. And they're earning 0.25% of the volume of GoldPesa for life. They can take their $10 worth of GoldPesa and leave at any time. So when you're sharing it with someone, you're not asking them to spend their money, you're asking them to stake. So it's not unreasonable to think that at least 50% instead of 10 are gonna go and share it with at least one person in 30 days. You know, that's every dinner party. Once every month, you go to a dinner party, you tell a friend, one time. That's it. And with this in mind, if we run this simulation, in the first year, we are looking now at 500K market cap. Let's just see how this works here. Okay, so we had a little bit better in the first year because, of course, with compounding, you get the most effect over many, many years, right? Over 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Because if you're only giving 50%, referring 50% of the people, then if you start with 10, then in month 1, you've got 15. In month 2, you have 22 or 23. In month 3, and so on and so forth, it's still not a huge amount at the end of the year because we're having very reasonable assumptions. So it still makes us better, for sure. We're at $5, $6, which is excellent, but it doesn't give you that 100x that everyone's sort of looking at, right? Now, if we go into the same model again and say, okay, well, if everybody, all 10 people, just referred one person each every single month, we'll just run that simulation. Now we've got a $2.5 million market cap at the end of the first year. We'll go into the price. Now we see a very interesting thing. We now, just by everybody working together, like we saw with the ants, everyone just share it with one person and then they're done their job, right? And at the end of that month, and you will get a $20 price by sharing it with just one person every single month as a team. That's at the end of 1 year, right? And of course, I can't even, if I showed you the end of 10 years, it's just ridiculous. This video is there to give you, if this, then this will happen. We're not saying that this is going to happen or not. We're giving an idea of what can happen by changing some of the parameters and how we as a team are looking at things on our side so that we can create the most healthiest economy and to create the most advanced form of money by setting up the rules of the robots in such a way that it creates a very healthy release of supply. The key thing is to remember is that the compounding effect happens over a few years where it really can skyrocket, and that can happen quickly. But you saw what happens when something goes up that quickly, then it creates a very unhealthy market, and you end up getting sort of that meme coin effect because of the sheer number of people that are coming in at one time. So this sort of gives you a bit of an idea of what we see in about a year or 2 years and how we want to set up our ecosystem, why we have the GoldPesa mines, and gives you a good idea of what's happening inside of the GoldPesa office as we are gearing to launch GPX. So you can answer the question for yourself as to where GoldPesa is going to be in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And in the next sort of, again, we're not done yet. GoldPesa, when we first designed these robots, the main robot, which we'll discuss in part 2, is the Pawn smart contract. And that robot is the most important. We have a hypothesis that it will create a more stable ecosystem, and the charts will be much more fruitful, much more stable, and much better. And we'll see when we run the simulations together. And of course, if you want to follow our logic, we're going to create a number of these videos so you can see what's happening behind the scenes, and you can follow us on our YouTube channel. We will post them all there, and that should be in the description of this video. All right, guys, so that's behind the scenes at the GoldPesa office, and we'll run some more simulations so you guys get a good idea of what we see when we see this project. And that's it for now. All right, take care.